Ladies and gentlemen, introducing Seal of Approval.
Hello there, and welcome back to Seal of Approval, the podcast bringing you weekly judgments on the latest movie news and reviews. I'm Callum, your host, and today I'm joined by my two guests, Taki and Anthony.
Kia ora.
Kia ora.
Taki, to introduce yourself, tell us one of your top 25 movies of all time and why you think it's so good.
Okay, so top 25. Now, I've had a lot to think about this, as I've seen previous episodes of other guests saying their top 25, and I've been really struggling with this, so I've decided to go with a classic, or something that I deem a classic, which is Sidney Lumet's 12 Angry Men, which is an old movie from the 50s, and for those of you who haven't seen it, it's basically a film about 12 jurors who get placed in a room, and they're deliberating on a case in which a young man has recently been charged for, or was being charged for, the murder of his father. And essentially the entire film is about these 12 men trying to come to a consensus whether the man is guilty or not. And I really like this film just because it's such a simple premise in which it takes just a whole bunch of characters, puts them in one room and just makes them talk, right? And it's like such a, to me, because my partner recently watched it the other day, and she was just so amazed how such a simple premise can be so compelling and engaging. And I just thought, yeah, this is wonderful. And it's like, because you've got all these recent blockbusters and all these high concept action films and all these wild things, and then some of them can just be so dull and boring, or just plain and then you've got a film like this, which is so simple. It feels like what they're talking about is high stakes. Also, the guy that they're trying to determine who's guilty or not, if he's guilty, he'll be basically sentenced to death. So there's the stakes in that, and also, whether or not there's any sort of reasonable doubt with that. But yeah, that's my pick for today.
Have you seen the remake of that? And what did you think of it, if you have?
The remake, I have not, but I've heard about it. Was it made for TV?
I think so, yeah. That's the one I've seen. So I haven't seen the original, but I've seen the remake, and it's incredible.
I'd highly recommend the original, but I think I will check out the remake.
All right, you check out the remake. I'll check out the original,
and then we'll come back, and then we'll have sweet.
And then we'll prepare for the new remake as per current trends, 12 Angry Women. So, which
you mean 12 strong women?
Gender bending. Yeah.
12 independent women.
Yeah. All right, same goes for you, Anthony. Do you want to give us one of your favourite films? Tell us why.
Well, my official favourite film is The Dark Knight, because it's just awesome. I just remember when it came out, it was so... It didn't really feel like a superhero film, and that's what made it so good. There are other superhero films I love, but The Dark Knight is kind of in a category all on its own. And it's just awesome. Just start to finish, it just wraps up the tension. You got, obviously, Heath Ledger, who's amazing, but everyone around him are rock solid to accentuate his performance, and just the pacing and just the suspense, and I genuinely didn't know what was going to happen next, all the way up to the end, and then you're just left there just trying to process it. Just such a great film.
Yep, that is classic Nolan. You leave the cinema kind of with your mind blown, and definitely The Dark Knight is a fantastic example of that. Well, I'm going to add Starship Troopers for me. I don't know if either of you have seen that movie. It's now on Disney Plus, so check it out.
Nice.
It's a fantastic sci-fi film. It's based on books. I don't know whether it's that faithful of an adaptation, but it's kind of good on its own, regardless of if you view it as an adaptation or not. I always loved the designs of the bugs. and the costumes, but the way they balance the horror of war with their kind of humor, it's gloriously self-aware, is how I put it. So highly recommend you check that one out.
Right.
Alrighty, now that we've let everyone judge our taste, let's move on to the all-important points.
Movie news highlights of the week.
In this round, I offer up clues to each of my guests, and they gain a point if they correctly guess which movie news item it refers to. And we'll start this week with Taki.
Nice.
So, here you go, your first clue. Who's getting grisly about drugs?
Oh, Grizzly about drugs. Oh, is this that one about Elizabeth Banks is directing a movie now?
Yep.
That's for Universal? Yeah.
Yep. Do you know the title of the film?
I believe it was Cocaine Bear.
Yes, you are correct again. Cocaine Bear. Yes, Elizabeth Banks, best known for her roles in Pitch Perfect and The Hunger Games, has been paired with Universal to direct the thriller Cocaine Bear. This will be based on the true story of a black bear that overdosed on a 70-pound bag of cocaine that was dropped from a drug smuggler's aeroplane.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
Oh
yeah, so I guess it is true. You really can make a movie from nothing. But
I just love the title. You don't even need to see the film.
No.
Cocaine Bear.
You really don't.
You've seen it. I mean that in a positive way. Like, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, not leaving anything to the imagination, are they? So
I was curious about how it's going to work. Like, is it about the bear? Do we see the film from the perspective of the bear,
actually,
like doing cocaine, or is it?
It's a superhero movie, Taki.
Oh, I
Cocaine
see.
Bear is actually
It's the launching point of the drugged up animal universe.
I would watch. So
I see.
Waiting for the weed moose.
Or the meth crocodile.
I hope it's full of drug puns, full of ironies, full of ridiculous scenes. That's the expectation I have for that movie.
Well, I kind of want them to tie it into American Made and have that part of the same universe. Where Tom Cruise doing his drug smuggling. It's actually just one of his trips, and
he's the one who dropped. Right. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
I feel like, Tom Cruise is nuts enough that I could see that happening.
That movie was set around the same time, wasn't it? The 80s? Or am I getting that wrong?
Yeah, I think
something like that, eh?
Oh, I want to say American Made's earlier than... No, maybe not. Because he wears a lot of floral T-shirts in the movie, so maybe it's
right.
More the 80s, yeah.
Right.
Yeah, so do you think this idea could work? Like what would you guys do, to make this into more than just a news article?
I'd go all in, just all the crazy things you can imagine, just really shoot for the stars. I don't think anybody's turning up to this movie expecting a hard-hitting drama. So I would want to exceed their expectations in the other direction. Just really, really wow them with my imagination.
Mm-hmm. So you do from the perspective of the bear? Is that what you're saying?
It's inner thoughts as it's tripping on the drugs. Just it's.
Oh right, okay. So you spend the movie in the bear's high. Okay.
Like the movie begins as soon as the drugs kick in, and we're just suddenly in this higher consciousness. But we're a bear. Man, this thing writes itself.
Taki, would you any changes for your version?
Oh my god! You know what? I wholeheartedly agree with Anthony about just going full out with it. To be honest, I mean, how else can you do this movie? Like, how else can you do this movie? And like you said before, Callum, about movies getting made. Like, they literally made a movie about emojis, so there's no shock or surprise that they're making a movie about this. For my version, I would make this a spin-off to Willy's Wonderland, if you guys haven't seen that.
Okay.
And just chuck Nicolas Cage in there. I think that's
Nicolas Cage is the bear. That's
he's the he's the cocaine bear.
Just imagine his voice as the bear's thoughts. Where am I? Am I the bear or am I the cocaine? And it just gets
What is
really
100%.
powder?
philosophical.
I'm down for either of that. You know, I want to take the muzzle off. Yeah. So, well, that begs the question: how much plot is too little? Would you say for a film? You know, because often simple ideas, like you say, Taki with 12 Angry Men, it can work. But how do you get the balance between actually having characters and a compelling plot? You know what I mean? You know, because my first thought is they're going to do this film obviously focusing on the drama of the drug smugglers and how it got into that scenario, and really the bear's going to end up being a cameo. Is how I expect it would go, even though I'm not sure how compelling that is. You know what I mean? But when the idea is literally like in that one sentence, smugglers dropped some drugs and a bear ate it. You know, like didn't even rampage in a town or anything. Just literally died from an overdose. Like,
Right.
how how do you play it? You know, how much is too much?
I guess it depends on what they want out of this film. You know what I mean? Like, I guess you could look at it in the way of how, like you say, like with 12 Angry Men, and even with something like political thrillers and how they tend to take ideas that are not as exciting on the surface, like Nick Cage fighting a cocaine bear. Those can be the most engaging and compelling forms of fiction or narrative or entertainment that there is. You can play it a lot of different ways. Hearing the title, though, I mean, I just think of outlandish, dark comedy with action. But of course, from the way that you describe it, it sounds like it's going to be more of a crime drama biopic or something like that.
Well, that's just what I imagine they would do. I think you're right. It probably, the concept works better as a kind of hangover type craziness.
Well, and Elizabeth Banks, she directed Pitch Perfect, right? Which isn't a crazy film, but it's certainly a far cry from a drama biopic, right? So I feel like her directing and the title's Cocaine Bear, I mean, to me, I have a pretty specific view of how I imagine this film would be just based on those two things. I think there would be no way to make this a good film if you stuck to the true story. You would have to add in that the bear went on a rampage. If there's no rampage, then I don't really see how there could be much of a story there worth making a film about. And you definitely wouldn't want to call it Cocaine Bear if the bear overdoses and dies.
Yeah, no, I agree, because like just the title itself sort of invokes that sort of expectation of what you want in that film, right?
Yeah, especially in terms of what audience you attract.
Yeah,
that's true. So which leads me to my question, and the reason why I kind of picked out this news. I want to hear your guys' thoughts on: is there such a thing as a bad idea, or is it all in execution? Do you think it is possible to have a bad idea?
Oh, what a question, Callum. What a question.
Getting all deep here.
One of the deep philosophical questions of the universe. Is there a bad idea?
Specifically related to film, okay? There are lots of bad ideas out there. Just want to clarify that.
Hey, you do you. I think there are definitely much better ideas than other ideas. I think any starting point, if you told a story about anything or nothing, some films are really about nothing, but they're just crafted in such a way with such finesse that they are somehow enjoyable to watch. And so I guess it's about what the goal is. But if you're trying to come up with an idea for a film, I do think there are definitely ideas that don't work as well as other ideas. I think there's definitely a range, but I think even the worst idea made really well could still end up being a good film, but a great idea executed well is going to be a 10 times better film, I think.
Yeah, I definitely think that execution is important when it comes to good films. Executed badly, they're, obviously really bad. To be honest, I don't think there is a bad idea for films, and I really hesitate when I say that because now I'm thinking of all the bad films I've seen. But then it's like a question of
Challenge accepted. I will come up with a bad idea for a film.
but then it's a question of like, is that the execution? Is that the idea? I don't know. I mean, I like to think of it as every idea is, or at least a film or a story is someone's self-expression about who they are and what they've been through, or like how they perceive the world. And so like when I look at it that way, I find it difficult to even criticize someone's work. But then, when you have the involvement of other parties such as studios and producers, and you have all these elements that just sort of contaminate the artistic creation of the form, then that sort of makes it into this really icky thing that's just like the Emoji Movie. It's just I keep thinking of that as the example ever since I've said it. I know there's others, but like...
Well, and so I think, for example, the Emoji Movie, that I don't think is a good or a bad idea. It's not really an idea yet. It depends on how you develop the idea, which may come under the category of execution. So I think any idea, like if you said, let's make a movie about a mountain, the mountain is the protagonist. That's not really an idea yet. It's kind of the seed for an idea, but you need to develop it, figure out, okay, is this a talking mountain? Do we follow people as they come to and from the mountain? And it's kind of the central point, like finish the idea. And I think any seed of an idea can be developed into a good idea, basically. So, for example, Emoji Movie, I think that could, by the way, I haven't seen it, but I've just heard a lot about it as well.
Don't bother.
Don't watch it. Do not watch it, yeah.
So that could, I think, have been a great idea. You think of the Lego Movie, things like that, things can be dealt with, which I think was great. I think any seed of an idea can be developed into a good idea, but you need to develop it into the good idea. If you skip that part, then you can, I think, start a film with an underdeveloped idea.
Yeah, so either way, then the execution almost doesn't matter if you haven't developed the idea. That's interesting. Yeah, the reason why I bring it up is just I've been thinking, I used to look at movies, you hear the announcements, you follow the news, which I've been doing most of my life, and you go, oh my goodness, that's a terrible idea. I can't believe they're doing that. Whereas now I lean towards, oh my goodness, I've seen this, and because I know who is behind it in terms of the director, the writers, or the production team, I am almost 100% convinced this is going to be bad. So it's that shift from being like, oh, the idea is bad, to getting worried about who's making it and whether they are capable of executing it well. Okay, well, moving on. Now I have a clue for Anthony.
I'm ready.
Anthony, your first clue today. Which actor wishes he wasn't award-winning?
Is that Eddie Murphy with the Razzies?
Yes, you are spot on.
But that was years ago, because he did a string of movies that were not received all that well.
Yes, and from what I understand, they were more just paychecks for him, but it still took him by surprise, the response that he got.
It has to take a toll. If you're constantly, there is basically, I'm sort of joking. There's basically nothing I wouldn't do for enough money. I have no integrity. Let's just clarify that.
You'd feed cocaine to a bear.
I'd feed cocaine to a bear for enough money. So if they're paying Eddie Murphy, I don't know, $10 million a movie or $20 million or whatever, I would do the most terrible movies. I wouldn't care. But yeah, I think it's got to take a toll if you're constantly being told that. It's probably just exhausting and you just kind of want to take a break from it, I assume.
Yes. No, you are quite right. Having recently returned to the spotlight, the comedic legend Eddie Murphy has shared that he quit acting in 2010 after he was awarded Worst Actor Ever at the Razzies. So yes, he took a good 6-7 year break. But a bonus points if either of you can tell me what the Razzies are actually called and what it is.
Raspberries.
The raspberry awards.
Golden raspberries? I'm just guessing the golden.
Yes.
So, yeah,
the golden
that's-
raspberries.
I think
Yeah,
you're right.
the golden raspberries. Or,
Don't they come out close to the Oscars?
Yes. Yeah,
Hey,
it's
hey.
almost the antithesis.
The Oscars come out close to the Razzies. Don't get it
To the
twisted.
Razzies,
okay?
right. Okay. My mistake. My mistake.
Hey, most of us will never be able to win the worst actor award at the Razzies, even if we tried. Right? That is an achievement to be.
True.
That's true.
To be in a place where you could even do that is something that I could be the worst actor ever. I'm never gonna win that award. So don't feel too bad, Kitty.
How depressing is that? Not only could you be the worst actor, you just aren't well known enough for being bad. Like this, it's like a double slap in the face. Isn't it?
That's what I mean. At least people have seen his movies to know that he's a bad actor. There could be worse things.
Didn't someone win like an Oscar and a Razzie like in the same year?
Oh,
I'm
really?
pretty sure someone did that. Yeah, it was like I think it was an actress. Someone won Best Actress and Worst Actress for two different movies in the same year, and I can't
two
remember
different
who
movies.
it is.
All right. Which one
it was
comes
two
first?
different movies.
Was it potentially? And this is just because she's on my mind after the Thor: Love and Thunder set leaks. But was it Melissa McCarthy by any chance?
No,
'Cause-
I'm imagining like a Halle Berry type, but I don't think
Right.
it was Halle
Oh
Berry.
yeah, it could be with
Could it be her?
Catwoman. Yeah, because she definitely won a Razzie for Catwoman.
Yeah, every time I hear Razzies, I think of Halle Berry straight away. Isn't that
Yes,
how
yes,
unfortunate
I
is that?
legit
She's an Oscar winning. She won the Oscar, right? Or she at least got nominated. She's an Oscar winning or nominated actress, but I associate her with the Razzies in my head. How sad is that?
That is very sad. I think she is the person that I'm talking about, but I'm not 100% sure.
And I don't think Catwoman, I don't think it was her acting that was the problem. Can we just clarify that? That was a terrible film.
Well, I think it was a mixture of everything.
I think
There was a lot wrong with that movie.
I think with a bit of sure, maybe she wasn't the greatest actor, but man, when you're working with that script and just how else can you say those cat puns? How can you say those cat puns well? I mean, really, is there any way to say those well? I don't know.
Well, that's another interesting question, isn't it? Is it all in your execution and direction? Whose fault is it? Because she very clearly is a competent actress.
Of course,
yes.
So how can you do such a bad job in a movie? Is it because you're not feeling it? Is it because the director's fault, the script's fault? Because we watched Alita: Battle Angel again last night, and which is by no means a perfect movie at all, actually. Which holds up way less than it did when I first saw it. But anyway, that's another discussion. Christopher Waltz delivers some really bad lines, very either exposition heavy or just kind of cringy, or not really what a human would say. But his delivery of it helps kind of smooth over the poor script,
yes,
if that makes sense. So,
another example of that, Heath Ledger in The Dark Knight. I was watching it and I was like, a lot of these lines of his are pretty corny, but he says them in such a way where either he knows it's a cliche or he's kind of taking the mick a little bit out of his own words, or he always finds a way to say it where it sounds awesome. But if you just look at those words on the page, some of those lines are not the best.
It's pretty on the nose, yeah.
And yet I think an incredible actor can elevate something like that. However, I think some words, one of Halle Berry's lines was, "That's a perfect idea," like purr, like a cat. So let's all try and say that well and see if anyone can do it. I think.
Okay. Hey, I'm down for this. Taki, do you want to go first?
Yeah, bro. Let's do it.
After you, bro.
Yeah, no. I'm just getting in character. Just thinking like Barry.
Think like a cat.
Think like a cat. That's a perfect idea.
Nice.
Oh, I've got goosebumps, Taki. Stop it.
Sound like the villain.
All yours, Cal, man. Blow them away.
Okay. What was it? It's a perfect idea?
A perfect idea.
Perfect idea.
Okay. That's a perfect idea.
Ooh.
Ooh.
I feel considerably uncomfortable.
Yeah. I feel like we're trying to out to seduce each other. I don't know. Anthony, you've already given us two versions. Do you feel the need to?
No, hey, I rest
But
my
was
case.
that your best version? Was that your best version?
I think I've proven my hypothesis.
Fair enough. So, yeah, but coming back to Eddie Murphy, as an actor yourself, Anthony, having acted before. Okay, whether you consider yourself an actor or not, either way, you have acted. So, okay. Having acted, I'm sure you can appreciate kind of Eddie's headspace after being awarded the Razzie. What's your take on sort of the criticism you can receive and how that impacts your psyche as an actor?
Well,
not that you've ever received any criticism.
No, not me, but others.
Stellar performances. So,
other people. Yeah.
Can you empathise with others? Yeah.
Well, I mean, I am prepping for a job right now, an acting job in the States, and part of that is learning the script, learning the dialogue and stuff. And yeah, sometimes I read the words and I'm like, is there any way to say this well? I'm not saying it's a bad script. There are times where I think Heath Ledger could pull this off, this particular line. If there's a line where I'm like, man, no human talks like that or whatever, I'm making it sound like it's a terrible script. It's not. But that's when you're directing the project, you have a lot more control, ironically, I think, over the final outcome. Because if there's a line that just they never got it to work, you can cut it, or you can kind of control it. But as the actor, someone else is in the editing room. What if they use a take that you thought was terrible, but they thought was good, but the rest of the world thinks is terrible? You know, there's a lot of power you're giving to someone else, but you're the one they're going to see.
Yeah, true.
So that does keep me up at night a little bit. You've really dredged up some stuff, Callum. No. But yeah, no, that would definitely, that would suck. Like it's one thing to, let's say, direct or produce your own project, and then some people don't like it, sure. But at least your face isn't there, you know?
Yeah.
Your face isn't attached to that emotional reaction.
Because there are so many. There are oftentimes people will trash the actors in a movie. Like I think of Twilight. Now Chanel and I, we did the marathon recently, and it was a fantastic comedy tour de force. I've never laughed so much. Well, I laughed a lot in the beginning, but by the end, I couldn't even laugh anymore. But I'm looking at these actors. These are great actors, I think. You got Robert Pattinson. You got Kristen Stewart. Is that her name? Kristen?
Yes.
The supporting characters, they're great. And I'm listening to the dialogue and I'm like, I just don't know that there's any good way of giving this dialogue. Even Taylor Lautner, he's in other things, especially when it's a comedy, he's really good. Yet we give so much flack to the actors because they're the ones in front of our face. I'm always like, who's the writer? Who wrote this? Like, where are they? They sold their script and they're off. No one even cares. Even the director, you might criticize the director. And sometimes, like I watched a film recently, I won't name it, but it was a pretty bad film. And as I'm watching it, I'm thinking the actors, I think, are doing a great job. I think the director did a really great job. This was a bad script, and you can elevate it somewhat, but you cannot turn a bad script into a great film. The best you can do, I think, is turn an average script into an above average film. But I think oftentimes actors get a lot of flack that actually isn't really to do with them.
That's true. Well, that's why we call writing is the foundation that you have to build off, because otherwise nothing really holds up. But you can, at best, it's just kind of, it looks like a house, but if it's going to collapse on you when you're in it, then,
is it really a house? Yeah. Philosophical questions. Yeah.
delving in today. Yeah, well, I'm sure that it was a difficult thing to hear, especially worst actor ever. When, like, you say, is that really fair? It's definitely more down to the directors or the writers or even the studio for green lighting a quote unquote bad idea or an underdeveloped idea.
He's not the worst actor. He's a great comedy actor. So, and he's done some incredible things. So he's definitely not the worst actor, but it's just gotta be exhausting after a while, I think.
Yeah, definitely. I'm glad he's back though. Like, I think, when was it? It was very recently when he made Dolomite Is My Name.
Yeah.
If you guys have seen that.
I haven't, but I need to.
I really enjoyed the hell out of that movie. I was like, oh my god, yes. Another recommendation, Anthony. There you go. I'll let you go and watch that. But it's like, to me, it's sort of Eddie's return to form almost, like his comeback into films. And I was just so pleased that he, came back, and then now he's doing Coming to America, I think is his recent.
Yeah, that's the latest one that seems to be received well. So.
Yeah, and like you say, Anthony, I think I do think it's interesting how you've sort of brought it back to the whole idea versus execution side of it, because I think with a lot of films, like filmmaking in general is just like a massive collaborative effort, and there are many cogs in the machinery that make it work and make it what it is, and a lot of it does start with, the script being the architect's blueprint to the house. But then, like Callum says, if the house isn't built with enough integral structure and, let's say they forget to build the toilet or something, then, like, is it even a house? And just those ideas. I think it's important to see film as a collaborative effort, because it's really just a collage of many artists coming together to make this one singular thing. And you've got the actors performing, you've got the writer writing the script, you have the DOP composing the visual elements, you have the sound recorders capturing all of the oral world, as it were.
You have the second AC, who is the heart and soul of the entire
soul of the production. How will the editor know what scene it is if there is no slate?
That's right.
How will they know?
Yeah, well, before this turns into the AC appreciation meeting,
AC is anonymous.
I think most actors, I would say, do have a fragile ego, but that's almost the nature of the job, right? It's your job to put yourself out there and to transform yourself, and everybody sees it,
If you need to be able to cry on demand, you need to have some fragile emotions. Otherwise, if you've got everything together, how are you going to bare your soul at the drop of a hat?
Exactly.
Well, again, deep stuff. I'll open this next clue up to either of you. So first person to jump in with the right answer gets the point. So fingers on buzzers, as they say. We just don't have buzzers. So unless any of you has a chicken like Nat does. Squeaky chicken.
Perfect.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Yep.
First purr in there gets the... Yeah. Okay, so here goes. Which injustice has Warner Brothers been subjected to this past week?
Justice League. Oh, it got leaked.
It did. Yes,
it did get leaked. I don't know whether to count the purr or the the actual answer. So.
Anthony had the answer. Take it away, man.
Well, you usually don't do the buzzers, do you? I don't know.
You usually don't.
I don't.
Okay, good.
I was like, is he changing it up for us? I was like, okay, I'll just do it.
I thought it was just banter. I saw this on Facebook. The Zack Snyder's cut. Someone clicked on Tom and Jerry, was it? And
so weird.
Zack Snyder's Justice League started playing, and this guy's tweeting out, and I think he saw the first hour before they fixed it. And he said it was the best hour of his life. No, he didn't say those words, but he said it was great. It was the best Act 1 he'd ever seen.
But clearly hasn't seen many movies. I mean, he was attempting to watch the Tom and Jerry movie. So, But yes, the Snyder Cut of Justice League, which drops in just a few days of us recording this episode, was leaked, quote unquote, after some technical difficulties on HBO Max. So when subscribers tried to play the new Tom and Jerry movie, the 4-hour-long Snyder Cut started playing instead. And it took HBO Max 2 hours before they were able to fix the issue.
Wow.
My God.
Yeah. So how damaging do you think this is to the movie?
Not
I don't
at
think
all.
it's damaging at all. No, I think it's
People are
great
raving about
promotion. Yeah. It's like, what? That happened? Man, now I want to see it. Oh, wow, it's coming out Thursday? Let's go. Let's
It's
go,
created
boys.
FOMO across the globe instantly.
Mm.
Everyone's like, man, why didn't I click on Tom and Jerry? Oh, that's right. And then they remember because it's Tom and Jerry. But
Yeah.
And now everyone's going to click on bad movies, hoping that they get Black Widow. It's like,
Twilight movies.
okay.
Superman v Batman, come on.
Yeah, come on.
Yeah, so I'm sure it doesn't really impact this particular movie. But how would you say pirating content impacts everyone who works on a movie? So do you think pirating affects everyone, or just the amount of money that above the line get? So, you know, your directors, actors, producers, the studio. Is it just them who's affected by pirating content, or do you actually think the rest of the crew who help make it are impacted?
I certainly think the effect on the crew would be a more delayed effect, because it doesn't matter how much money this film makes, they still get paid long before the film makes any money. If you're waiting to make money from the profits, then it might affect you. But on a larger scale, if pirating ever became, which I don't think it ever has become, such a big problem to alter the industry, like COVID has, for example, or even streaming in general, those things have been so huge that, yes, that affects crews because it affects what productions are happening, where they're happening and everything. If pirating caused that much effect, then I think it would, but I don't think it ever has. And I think it's surely becoming less and less of a problem these days. I don't know.
Yeah, well, I guess, like saying with so many streaming platforms, that almost does it for, most people can pay for streaming, forget about it, I guess.
Yeah.
Or just pay for the subscription, and then they have access to so much content.
Or use someone else's password, all that stuff.
Or leech, yeah. Well, do you consider that pirating, I guess?
Technically,
That's up for debate. How does that impact?
I don't know. Is it because, like, if you buy a DVD and then you borrow it to a friend to watch it, is he pirating your movie? Like, it's...
I think home use is okay, isn't it? If it's strictly in his home, his family only, I think that's okay. I don't know. It's been so long.
Yeah, because I think technically it was illegal to do that, even though there's no way of enforcing it. I'm pretty sure you're supposed to keep the DVD to yourself, I guess, unless you're gifting it.
Really?
But yeah, that's an interesting... Yeah, because otherwise, then why don't I just share it with my whole community because I'm such a good person, which is essentially what pirating sites do, because there are plenty of pirating sites that pay for the initial movie so they can rip it and then...
Well, because to me it's such a weird thing, because then it's like, Callum, if you screened the Snyder Cut of Justice League at your house and then 20 people come over to watch it...
Hypothetically.
Then it's like, hypothetically.
Hypothetically, yes.
No, let's say hypothetically that happens, right? Then are the 20 other people pirating the film? Like, is it so? Like, what counts? And because it's in the home, right? So it's in the home, and it's. I
thought home use was fine. That's what I thought. Yeah. I thought it was if it's any kind of wider community thing in any degree, that's ticked in force, obviously. In a home, and it's the people of the home, or I don't know. Friends. But it was always a grey area, and it was something you couldn't. I assumed that they'd kind of taken that into consideration with the pricing, and they assumed that one DVD would be shown to a few households and kind of took that into account. But I don't know.
Yeah, I guess it's kind of the sad reality, isn't it? That everyone wants their entertainment, but most people don't want to pay for it. Right, or at least pay very little for it. especially considering how much it costs to make, I mean, produce any media content, right? Let alone the big blockbusters that audiences have become accustomed to. So I guess that's more just indicative of human nature and our expectations for entertainment.
Yeah. Although you raise like an interesting point, Callum, because like with streaming sites being such an abundance nowadays, it's almost more effort to just go off and pirate movies. I don't know, because it seems like there's more of a convenience factor having them all on one platform. And I feel like a lot more people nowadays are seeing that. But again, I do understand that there are certain people that do still pirate films and television and whatnot, especially with the wave of COVID that's like, and, with Warner Brothers, is it Warner Brothers that's like moving on to streaming now, or like HBO Max. They're doing screenings in theaters and an HBO. Was that them? Yeah. So like, there's this whole thing about now the first time you see a movie is going to be on your couch at home, and it's like because once it's online, then it's free for the pirates to come and take it. So then is that going to have an impact potentially? Perhaps it will, but then we'll just have to see where that goes, because COVID has changed so much, like with Anthony saying about how that affects crew. Like, I'm trying to start out as a second AC, and I've had so many productions just like fall apart upon lockdown. It's just like, oh damn, like we're going to film this tomorrow, it's going to be great, you're going to do all this. Nope, it's cancelled. Okay, I'll just stay home and watch The Good Place, I guess. Like,
Even myself, I've worked now on the largest productions ever in history, but even those, have been massively affected by it. Like one minute, I guess that's the nature of the industry. 1 minute you have security, the next it's like, oh no, it's gone. And that's even with a big production that is able to still stay afloat even during some of the less strict lockdowns, because they can put in masks in place and they almost have the money to be able to do everything with more restrictions, whereas smaller productions don't, right? That's why it's a lot harder to be compliant, actually requires quite a bit of money. So it's a crazy time for us. But as we said in previous episodes, the industry is expected to bounce right back by 2023. So there we go.
Oh, good.
Let's go.
Yep.
This job I'm prepping for was meant to happen last year, and it still hasn't happened yet. Yeah. 2023 is unacceptable. No, should be fine. I don't even want to tell you how old I'm going to be in 2023.
Oh, God.
But it has a 3 in it. That's all I'm going to say.
Oh.
You're going to age out of the role.
I'm going to be bald by that time.
I find that very hard to believe, Anthony, but with all your luscious locks. So bringing it back to the Snyder Cut, how do you both feel about the Snyder Cut? I take it you saw the original version of Justice League?
Yes. I'll let Taki take this one first, if it pleases the court.
It does.
Yes, I did see the original Justice League. I went into the IMAX theatre of Event Cinemas. I went in with 2 of my very close, endearing friends, and we were the only people in there. So that says a lot about the wider opinion at the time of
how long had it been out?
The film. Well, actually, it was only like a week or so. Like a week and a bit.
I was going to say, because I saw it opening day and it was packed, and you had a lot of DC fanboys, and I presume people who like Snyder's vision in there, because we got lots of angry stares because me and my mates couldn't stop laughing.
Right? Like, oh my God, legit. Like, yeah, man. Like, it had to have been a week or so, because it definitely wasn't opening night. It would have been, like Callum says, DC fanboys and like everybody there, because it's, oh my God, it's Justice League. This is the Avengers, but Batman's here. It's like. But yeah, no, It's
not. By the way, spoilers, guys. It's not that.
It's not. Spoilers. Sorry to burst your bubble, but it's not. So safe to say, we did not like it. I'm very surprised that the Snyder Cut even is here. because I know there was such a massive movement around, release the Snyder Cut. This is, the original vision. This is not what we want. It was like this entire, this movement. And then I was because I never thought it would happen. I never thought that they would actually be like, you know what? Yes, we'll give you what you want. Here's the then again, they redesigned Sonic, and that was like sort of the stepping stones, and then it became like this idea of, you release something, and this idea that like the audience can control or like manipulate that sort of content or that release. It's an interesting precedent to set, and is it gonna like become a thing where like, actually I really didn't like that movie, can we get the Shyamalan cut of that? Like, it's just what's gonna be the next director's cut of anything? Like,
well, it's money, isn't it? And I think I read something, and it was on Facebook, so take it, this could be totally false, but I read something somewhere by someone. They said that apparently it was when people started, this movement started of release the Snyder Cut, and the executives were just like, oh, okay, let's throw some money at it, finish the Snyder Cut and release it. There's clearly an audience for this thing. It was purely just a reactionary thing to seeing an audience there telling you, hey, we will pay money for this specific thing. We're right here ready to give you our money.
Yeah.
So I think it's the same thing that's always happened. It's just now because of social media, there's a much more direct, specific connection where you can get really specific about what people want and when, and react very quickly to that, I think.
I guess the issue with social media, though, is because, as we know, the algorithm kind of tries to cater to what you actually want to hear rather than necessarily giving you a balanced report of things. It is hard to gauge what people actually will pay for or what they actually want, as opposed to, say, a minority. Like, because I would say that it's a minority who like Zack Snyder's vision.
A minority out of the population or out of DC fans?
No, well,
out of film fans.
Out of your general audience. Because the thing is, DC or Warner Brothers want their DC universe to be for general audiences. It's not like they are trying to cater to just DC fans.
Right.
And even then, I would consider myself a DC fan. I don't like what he's done with movies, or the characters.
Same.
I think, one, they're poor adaptations of the characters, but then also I think the filmmaking itself is poor. But that's a much deeper discussion that we could talk about for hours. So what I wanted to bring up is the fact that some people have suggested that the leak was actually caused by Warner Media themselves. A bit of conspiracy thrown out there. So the idea is that they wanted to use the Snyder Cut to look good, like you said, and make a bit more money, especially back from all the money they lost out on the 2017 version. But they don't want it to be so successful that they are then under pressure to continue Snyder's vision of the DC universe.
Right. And why is that? Do you know?
Because they don't like his vision. Or they know it's not a crowd pleaser,
I read that too. The actual, I forget who exactly, I think Warner Brothers, they didn't like the Snyder Cut.
Yeah,
it was their parent company, AT&T. Am I just making this up? Their parent company who were like, yeah, let's do it. But I read that Warner Brothers themselves didn't like it. And so they're literally just doing this, well, one, because they've been told to, but also just for the money aspect. So that does make sense that they wouldn't want to continue his vision of it.
So they're trying to shoot it in the foot. Maybe that's why Zack Snyder's been releasing so many flipping trailers.
I tell you what, though, the trailer with the Hallelujah song, the Leonard Cohen version, was very interesting to me. It was very, I don't know, it was quite striking. It got my attention.
Didn't he do that with Watchmen as well?
Yeah, it's very apparent that Zack Snyder thinks of himself as an auteur. And he's not. He has a set style. I don't think it works. Some of it is interesting. He needs to chill out on the slow-mo. And, it's up to you whether you like that specific color grade, I guess.
When you say he's not an auteur, do you mean he's not a genius director, or do you mean... Because auteur, doesn't that mean the director kind of has such a clear, strong control over every aspect. They put their mark on everything so clearly, as opposed to they just kind of direct, but everyone brings their own flavor to it. How it?
Yeah, I guess that's true. I guess when I use the phrase, I'm more meaning in the more pretentious term, where it's like I'm an artiste.
Right.
Yeah.
He's not a Hitchcock or a Kubrick.
Yeah,
Or Kubrick, yeah.
he thinks of himself as more than just a filmmaker. He thinks of himself as an artist, which I appreciate. But I think as in like he's got a much elevated opinion of himself and his style. When in reality, him and Chris Terrio, I think, are terrible writers.
Does he write the script, Zack Snyder?
Yeah, him and Chris Terrio,
Right.
they're writing buddies.
I tell you what, I saw Justice League, and I am generally very positive about movies. Often someone else is saying they don't like the movie, and I'm like, I actually liked it. I'm generally very positive, very forgiving, but all the way through, I had to out loud say, man, this is pretty bad. And I've seen it twice.
Yeah.
I saw it again because the first time I couldn't for the life of me remember anything that happened. You know those movies where
Yes.
it's like it goes in one eye and out the other eyeball? Something about it you cannot retain. You don't know how it started. You don't know how it ended. I couldn't tell you. So I watched it again, and to this day, I remember the stuff that I see on Facebook, the little snippets, but I don't know, like the scene with Superman.
Superman's mustache.
Yeah, that kind of stuff. The Superman, and he throws Batman on the ground, and Kal-El, no, that stuff. But I can't tell you the scene before it or the scene after it. I don't know. It doesn't go in. So when I see Zack Snyder's cut, it's like it'll be the first time watching the movie. That's the kind of thing. There's something about it that just did not stick because it just didn't connect the circuits. I don't know how else to explain it, but I think you get what I mean.
Yeah. Hey, look, I am 100% confident that this version will be better than the version we originally got. Do I think it will be good? I think it will be a fun watch, and there will be cool moments. I think Zack Snyder is all about the moments, but I don't know whether that contributes to a 4-hour movie that you just can't get enough of. You know? But I just wanted to share with you guys, I don't know if you've heard about Snyder's original plan going forward. Originally, he was going to do 3 Justice League movies back to back. So the next Justice League would have featured the nightmare world that you see in Batman vs. Superman, that dream scene. Batman would have fallen for Lois Lane and had a child with her. Superman would have turned evil kind of because of that. And then would have been put under the influence of Darkseid, the big bad, the Thanos of DC. And the whole trilogy, as it were, would have ended with Superman finally deciding or coming to terms with who he is, and then becoming the hopeful Superman we actually know from the comics.
Okay.
So, are you keen to see more of this DC?
Hey. I like
like
the sound of that. I'm not joking. That sounds awesome. I mean, I'm not a DC fan. I think just in the same way, I wouldn't call myself a quote-unquote Star Wars fan, meaning my response to the movies, I think, is a lot different from others because I just watch the movie, and so long as it's interesting and surprising, then I'm all for it. I mean, I personally, I like those big twists and the evil Superman, and like that sounds pretty cool to me. But not if the films are not good films. But those basic ideas is something I could totally be down with, I think.
That's so interesting. I disagree, personally. No, for me, like, I've seen a lot of... And here's the thing, like, I would consider myself a DC fan, and I'm so... This is me personally again. Like, I'm so sick of seeing evil Superman. Like, I feel like I see that a lot in the comics and the animated films and all the other media. Granted, we haven't seen it in the recent contemporary DC films. I think they did it with the Christopher Reeves, but I don't remember. And I think it was a similar thing.
But that was like it was a clone of.
It was a clone,
himself.
right? Yeah. I couldn't remember if it was a clone or if he was under the influence of someone. Even in the really questionable CW TV DC verse, they had an evil Superman in there. And to me, I don't see that as interesting anymore. I think you can still do interesting things with it, but personally, I feel like that idea's kind of played out. To me, what would be more interesting is like an evil Batman. And I know people will disagree with that idea, which is fine, because that's totally okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's like, I don't know, man. I think I would still be interested to see this trilogy come to life, though, just because it's great to see someone's, it's almost like hearkening it to George Lucas's Star Wars, in a way that, like, George Lucas has all the creative input, the creative control over this trilogy. He has this whole idea beginning to end, and you're not getting lost along the way, or at least you hope you're getting pushed in the right direction.
Yeah, at least it is somebody's vision as opposed to studio boards.
Like, interfering and just contaminating the content, just at least it'll be that. And then, who knows, they could have been, it could have been great. And who knows if the Snyder Cut's gonna make Warner Brothers think, actually, we should do that trilogy because everyone loves it. But who's to say that would happen? I don't know.
I guess, hypothetically, we might find out on Friday.
Hypothetically, that answer might be, might come true.
All individually in our own homes with our paid subscriptions.
Yes.
Of course. And with that, we're on to round 2.
Mostly rotten.
In this round, my guests have to guess the Rotten Tomato scores for various movies, and the closest guess wins the points. And today we're going to have a look at some of the Snyderverse. Starting with Man of Steel, then moving on to Batman vs. Superman, Dawn of Justice, and then on to Justice League 2017. It was all nicely prepped for the Snyder Cut. So, either of you like to start by giving us the critic score for Man of Steel?
You can go.
This is 2013, just for reference.
Man of Steel, yeah. I would put my guess at around 80. Something in my memory tells me that was fairly well received, that one.
Man of Steel. This is this like the critic score of Rotten Tomatoes?
Yes, the critic score, yeah.
I feel like 80 is a bit high, I kind of feel like it's... You know what, I'm just going to say 60, but I have no clue.
60.
I feel like it might be lower. I don't know.
60.
Lock it in.
Well,
Bish.
lock it in. Well, you are very close. It's actually 56%.
Oh my god.
So was that movie not well received? I thought it was, but was it not?
It was definitely not well received by critics.
Right.
I'll let Taki decide what he thinks the audience thought of it.
Audience. See, because I was thinking the audience was more of an 80, because I know that, so I'm just going to lock an 80. But yeah, okay. I remember the critic score, or at least the critical opinion was like, it was alright, so 60's like my alright.
Yeah, well, basically, the critics thought it was a very Zack Snyder version of Superman, which, I mean, if you're used to Superman in the comics, you're not going to appreciate or like. But also, there's lots of problems with that movie. But anyway, so for you, Anthony, the audience score.
I'd guess 70, yeah. I think the audience would have liked it more. So yeah, I'll guess 70.
Okay, well, that is incredible. We have an even split there. It's actually 75%.
Oh my god.
So a point to both of you there.
Yeah.
So Anthony, would you like to redeem yourself by giving the critic score for Batman vs. Superman, Dawn of Justice, released in 2016.
Now, this movie was rubbish. And I think everyone agreed across the board. And I'm talking like 20s rubbish. I feel like it would be like 24%. That's what I'm going to give.
24. Okay. And for you, Taki?
You know what? I was going to give it like a 25 to make it that balanced, but I don't want to do that. I'm going to do 26.
26. Well, you've just stolen that one, Taki. It's actually 28%.
Ah, this is the 20s.
You're both spot on. The critics did not receive that well. So how do you think the audience thought about BVS?
I think similar. I'll guess 28 for the audience as well. I think the same, basically.
28. And for you, Taki?
I always believe with these movies in particular, there's always like a massive contrast between audience and critics. I may be wrong, who knows? but I feel like I'm just going to go with like a baseline 50.
50.
The audience. I don't know. Could be higher, could be lower.
Much to my surprise, it's actually 63%.
What?
What?
Yep.
63. Oh man,
Yeah.
you lot are moving mad.
Yeah. From what I remember, I think people enjoyed Ben Affleck's Batman. And him. There's like one good Batman fight scene. Speaking of evil Batman, he kills a lot of people in that movie. So I don't know. People, I think, were distracted by that as opposed to everything else that happens in the movie.
Right. I mean, he kills a lot of people. He uses guns. It's like, what is this, man?
Yeah.
It's the Punisher in a batsuit.
Yeah. Pretty much. Which then brings us to Justice League, or as people call it, Justice League now. Joss Whedon's sort of patched version. So, Taki, would you like to give us a critic score? So this was 2017, so a year after BVS.
A year after BVS. Okay, so BVS did pretty bad. So logic dictates Justice League would be worse. So I'm going to go for a solid 20.
20.
For Justice League.
And for you, Anthony?
Something in my memory tells me it was a bit better. I remember being a bit surprised that Batman v Superman was even worse than Justice League. So I would go a bit higher. So I'd go for 35.
35. Well, you're pretty close. It's 40%.
Really? Interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, it is.
That is surprising.
Yeah, surprising. I would have thought, especially with, I mean, just even how the movie opens with that horrible iPhone footage of, I don't know if they were trying to make a statement about how much they didn't like Zack Snyder's version. And so the fact that this was, I have to assume it's that.
I guess they like Joss Whedon like a lot.
No, because you can definitely argue, well, I would say almost 100% Justice League is worse.
Yes.
As a movie. So, but yeah, so there you go. Anthony, do you want to round this off by giving us the audience score for Justice League?
Well, so far the audience has always been higher. So I would guess 55% for Justice League.
Okay, and for you, Taki?
40 kind of threw me off. And I don't know what Anthony said, so that's fine.
Yeah, don't tell him.
55.
55. Okay.
Now he's going to guess one above or one below.
Oh, no, mate. That's not boys. That's not me, man.
Yeah.
No, I reckon it was probably a lot higher then, because I feel like a lot of people liked it more than BVS. Like, you had those people that were really in denial about how bad it really is, and were like, you know what, at least it's better than Dawn of Justice. So I'm going to just say like 70 or something.
70. Are you locking that in?
Why are you asking me that, Callum? No, I want to change it.
Well, you just said 70 or something, so I'm just wondering if...
true. Yeah.
If you get...
It's 70, mate. You know what?
70. Well, it's actually 71%.
Oh.
What?
Yep. So, incredibly close. I can't even comprehend how you could even, above 50%, how you could even dare.
I mean, I was like shocked at 40 for the critics. I was just like, okay. Because I was thinking 52, and I was just like, you know what, let's just plus 20 it. Maths our way.
52 plus 20?
Yep.
70.
Quick maths.
Well, that is the Snyderverse. Now, we're on to the final round, and we're back to...
Movie news highlights of the week.
And we'll start this round with Anthony.
All right.
Who's proudly wearing the I do all my own stunts t-shirt?
Bond woman, Ana de Armas.
Yes, there you go. Spot on. Do you know much about her comments?
She's a Bond woman. Daniel Craig's last Bond film, I believe. I've heard that before.
Yes. Well, yeah.
Until they offer him $300 million, then he'll come back.
She co-starred with him before in Knives Out.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Which is pretty good. Yeah. And she, in particular, I thought was fantastic in the movie. So I'm excited to see her in something else. Not necessarily excited about another Bond movie, but, who knows. But yes, she has been sharing her intense training regime for the next James Bond movie, No Time to Die. So during the week, she would train from 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. and then go to the shooting range on the weekends, similar to what Keanu Reeves did for John Wick. So they're necessarily not that interested in talking about James Bond again. But I wanted to know what your guys' thoughts were on actors who do their own stunts. And should it be left to the stunties?
I think when the actors do their own stunts, it allows for a lot better fight sequences in that. I think it's a double-edged sword, but at least you can show a lot more because you're not afraid of us seeing the stunt double's face. You see some of these old films and you got these really obvious stunt double shots. And it's just, I mean, how can you get into it? And then you have someone like Jackie Chan, right? You can watch everything because it's all him. It's amazing. And it is so immersive to me because we're not looking away. We're not covering everything up with these quick shots. It's just a wide shot. And we just watch the whole thing play out. I mean, those are my favorite fight scenes. So I think in that way, if the actors can pull it off, I think it allows for much more realistic fight scenes.
Well, that's my first reaction as well. I watch Tom Cruise and say, that's awesome. Like, him actually doing it adds something to the film because you're going, oh my goodness, this is real. However, this is a point that I saw somebody raise, and I can't remember when or what it's for, but where do you draw the line? So, the stars are there to act, right? And they're being paid a crazy amount of money for it. So some people would argue that them doing their stunts is actually taking away from, below the line, the stunties, just to give it to an already wealthy above the line, like a main star. Also, of course, there's the risk of injury and what that means to everyone's jobs. So I know, Anthony, you recently worked on where there was an accident. So what did that mean to you and the rest of the crew? Tell us about that without...
We lost our jobs for 7 to 10 months, I think it was. They kept shooting for about a week, trying to do all the scenes that didn't involve that actor, but in the end, it just wasn't going to happen. And that wasn't even a stunt. That actor did some of their own stunts. Did a lot of their own stunts. But the shot where he got injured wasn't even one of those shots. It was actually kind of a freak accident where he'd just done all these crazy fighting things. And then in this one shot where he didn't have to do a whole lot, it just happened. And it was kind of, we're all there watching it and we were all kind of like, what just happened? Like it was, there may have been some pre-existing injury or something. But in that case, it was everyone, losing their jobs for 7 to 10 months, I think it was. And it was a few months before Christmas. And it was the fact that none of these people had booked their next jobs for at least 6 months more. So it wasn't just the fact that they needed to find more work. If the job had only been a 3-month job, then they would have had work lined up. But because they hadn't taken on any work for the next 6 months, all the jobs were kind of taken. So, but I think in general, people landed on their feet as you have to learn to do. I was totally fine. I had my other projects I wanted to work on, so it was actually a blessing in disguise for me. Don't tell any of them that. But the injuries can mean your livelihood and the livelihood of the entire crew potentially for an extended period of time. So that's definitely a thing. Absolutely, that's definitely a consideration.
Yeah. So would that change your opinion on how you view actors choosing to do their own stunts, or no?
I think it should be something that is worked out in a way that's responsible. I don't think you should have someone doing stuff that they cannot do well and safely. If you're Jackie Chan, you're a martial artist, that's different to asking Liam Neeson to do those same stunts, right? That's a very different ask. One is very irresponsible. I'm talking about Jackie Chan in his prime as well. I don't know where he's at now, but
yes.
But those are two very different. One is totally part of the appeal. Same with Tom Cruise. I think it's part of the promotion. It's part of the whole experience. But the other, I think, is quite irresponsible. So I think those are all things to take into consideration. But if an actor can do their own stunts and do it well and do it as safely as any stunt person could, I think that adds a lot to to the experience. And I think there's a lot of work for stunt people that I feel like even if the main actors do a huge amount of their own stunts, there's so much that stunt people are needed for other than just doubling for the lead actor. So that's personally coming from not a stunt person. So bear that in mind. But yeah, I think just be responsible. I think at the end of the day, don't stretch an actor further than they can reasonably go, because that's an issue for their health and then therefore an issue for everyone else on the crew.
Yeah, so, and Anthony, did you end up getting paid out at all for that job?
Well, the contract stipulated that in that case, you get paid out 2 weeks. You get paid out 2 weeks from when you were informed that the contract would be ending. So we worked for the first of those 2 weeks wrapping, but because we knew the job was over, we could start looking for more work. So it was a 2-week contingency, which, it is what it is. But when that show came back, I understood. I don't really know because I wasn't really in the loop, and I didn't return to the job when it came back 7 to 10 months later. But I think they definitely tried to offer it to all the same people as well.
And I'm assuming you agree, Taki, or
Yeah. You mean in terms of like the idea of actors doing their own stunts and all that? Yeah, I mean, like when you talk about, and I totally agree, Anthony. I think when you mentioned Jackie Chan, he is one of the greatest martial arts actors on the planet, and just the value of having an actor who can perform all those actions and be able to like see them in a wide shot. I think it's quite spectacular now, because even like Liam Neeson, all I think about is just him jumping over a fence, right?
Yep.
And the amount of
the classic,
the classic, the amount of cuts it takes just to even showcase that alone. I think, yes, you're right. There is that sense of responsibility and safety that you have to think about in terms of like, not only the actor but also like the crew as well, and like just being responsible as a, I guess, crew member or just someone in that sort of environment. But I also think there is a value in which you are an actor that can perform your own stunts. Like, it just brings another level of authenticity to the piece, like seeing Keanu Reeves and John Wick, the things that he does in that. Like, Keanu Reeves, Tom Cruise, Jackie Chan, all these incredible guys that can do what they do. It, like, I think it does enhance the level or the value of a film when they can do that. And I want to make the counterpoint as well that like I think it's okay when actors can't do that. You know what I mean? Like when they have to have a stunt person in, it's not gonna devalue the film by any means unless executed poorly.
Yeah.
And
it's almost just like a cool extra thing, isn't it?
Yeah, it's like an additional sweet thing of, I get to see this. And there are like pros and cons to that. I think there are certain films that are fine when you watch them, and they're like, you can sort of get a gist of what's going on. But again, I think I'm more of the audience that likes to see all of my action, and I like to see people get punched in the face when it's being, when I pay to see that, right?
I think you can feel the difference as well. You could just sense
absolutely
the difference. I think of even like The Witcher, for example, regardless of what you think of the show. But he, just his physical presence, but the training he's done, and the fact that a lot of the stunts were him. Probably not all, but a lot of them. Seeing the behind the scenes of how they did a lot of them, really, those fight sequences were great. And I think it's hard for an actor. Personally, this is just me, but I feel like it's hard for me to really invest in an action hero. They don't have to do all their stunts, but if I know that they probably couldn't kick a soccer ball, if they just have that sense of there is zero physical presence, it's really hard to invest when I'm watching now their stunt double. And that goes for, by the way, Iron Man, Superman, who are fully in a suit, and when they're all CGI, I zone out as well, because I can't really invest in this temporary CGI hero that defies physics. As much of it as possible as can be real, to me that makes a huge amount of difference to my experience watching it.
Yeah. No, I agree. It's also likewise for me when you see, especially when movies where, there's not magic involved or superhuman abilities where you see very small, petite women flipping over.
Are you
like,
talking
these
about a
massive
particular film, Callum?
guys? I mean, to be honest, it's a bit of a trend. So there's quite a few that I could highlight. But
Wonder
but
Woman
yes.
is an example to me. I compare Wonder Woman to Black Widow. I'm a huge fan of Black Widow.
Yeah.
I don't know how much of her stunts she does, but to me, it feels like she does them all.
It feels like it's her.
I feel that energy from her. I fully believe she could do all those things. And maybe I find out it's all stunt doubles. The fact that I can't tell, and the fact that she kind of exudes this sense of she could beat me up, whereas Wonder Woman, I mean, her fights, it's CGI. Like, she turns into a video game character to throw a punch. Like, it throws you right out. And so that's the difference to me.
Yeah. I mean, Black Widow also helps that she also fails plenty of times. She gets knocked around.
That's right.
And it's just how she recovers and her style that overcomes it. So, yeah, no, I agree. Okay, well, moving on. Now I have a clue for Taki.
Hey.
Who's dealt their hand and revealed why their movie never happened?
Oh, is this about the X-Men spin-off Gambit, by chance?
You are spot on, Taki. Channing Tatum has revealed why his long-anticipated X-Men spin-off movie Gambit has not worked out. Apparently, when Fantastic Four came out and didn't do well for Fox, they decided to lower their budget 12 weeks out from production. The script needed a whole bunch of rewrites to work within that budget, and as he says, it just didn't get there. So, what are your thoughts on that, guys? I'm sure you guys have had experiences with budget changes.
Yeah, no, I've worked with studio executives before. Yeah, no, can't stand it when they cut my budget.
When my $100 million gets
As
down
an
to
auteur.
like 90, it's like... As an auteur, I find it disgusting. Deplorable. No. I mean, hasn't this been going on since X-Men Origins Wolverine? Like, I swear, I feel like this movie has been in, like, development hell for, like, so long.
Yes.
And yet now, yeah, like, it's just now, I was, like, convinced it was just never coming out, and now, like, there's a reason. I was like, oh, really?
Well, it's hard. I think, when you're making a no-budget film, which is the only kind of film I know, there's no delusions. You know exactly what your budget is before you even come up with the idea. So
yes,
what seems crazy to me is you've got this train and it's moving, and then 12 weeks out, you have to change the script to cater for probably millions of dollars slashed. That's the crazy part to me, something that I can't imagine.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, the only experience I've really had is almost the opposite, where I've been stood next to the director and he's paused to take a call and, and he's like, yeah, okay. Puts the phone down and is like, sweet, got another $1 million. And I'm stood there like, oh, okay, cool. I would like to see a small bit of that money, please.
You stand in the same spot,
you know what I mean?
and you hope to get a call.
Yeah.
You're like, is it the spot? You stand there and you get a call. You're like, wow, I got $1 million too.
Yeah. But yeah, it's crazy to think how much. I mean, for us and our lower budget, or like you say, no budget, that are personal projects. You know how restrictive the budget is, right? Because there's various. You can't rely on visual effects. You can't, you can't even like have too many characters because then that starts ballooning everything. You can't have too many locations and et cetera, et cetera. So, it's hard to imagine quite how, several millions of dollars would change if you have planned to do a big CGI romp fest. You know what I mean? It's almost like, how would you scale it back?
Yeah, how depressing.
I'm sure that is a little bit tricky.
How depressing. Because it's still a superhero movie, so people have their expectation. It's not like you can change it to some indie drama. So people are turning up for a superhero movie, and you have catered the script to save money. I mean, how depressing.
I mean, it's depressing to know that even well, I don't even know what the lowest percentage I could possibly say is, but less than 1% of that budget we would be happy with, for one of our projects. You know what I mean?
Oh, hell yeah.
And then just when you hear them kind of saying that it changed everything around it, it's almost like a stab in the heart.
Like if they misplaced $100,000, they wouldn't notice. If they misplaced it into my bank account, have you ever thought about this? Jeff Bezos, you're like, bro, if you just dropped on accident $500,000, you wouldn't notice. You'd go the rest of your life, and if that just dropped into my account on accident, that would change my whole life, bro.
Yeah.
And I'm saying this, and my shampoo bottle is like, yeah, no, you should tell him. And I'm like, yeah, I should do
it. This is how Joker happens.
You gotta let the shampoo sit, so your mind wanders. But yeah, you're right. It's all in perspective, eh? You start to think that some productions get a little bit lazy with how they use the money, which, I mean, fair enough. If you got $100 million for your film, you're not gonna labor over, is this the most efficient? It's like, just do it.
Just blow it.
And some money gets wasted on this, and yeah.
I do think definitely, especially the large productions, I mean, even just the ones I've worked on, they could save a lot of money that could be used elsewhere.
Oh, they build all this stuff just in case we need it, and they shoot all this stuff, and then they're like, nah, flag it, we do it again. Just all this money that isn't actually going to end up on screen.
Yeah.
Think of how many bacon backfires from Burger Fuel that would be. That's how I measure money.
Well, as they say, it's a director's job to dream, and it's a producer's job to tell them they can't afford that dream.
Right.
Director Rupert Wyatt has said that it was a really exciting sort of Godfather with mutants set in the world of New Orleans with different gangs. So do you think the solo X-Men movies were a good idea? Like you said, Wolverine's origins was supposed to kickstart them all.
Oh, good idea.
Going to do a Magneto one and whatnot. But
I think great idea, but not necessarily great films. But I think the idea of it makes sense. I mean, it's what the MCU, I think, has achieved, what others have tried to, but never quite.
Yeah, I think the issue that the MCU is running to even more as time goes on is that, like spoilers for WandaVision, so you can skip ahead if you want, but Doctor Strange doesn't show up at the end of WandaVision, which actually creates a bit of a plot hole, because if he's supposed to be the one safeguarding the realities and magic use of the world, then why wasn't he there? And they don't even try and write an excuse for him. And so in the same sort of way with the X-Men, when you're doing solo movies, I mean, Wolverine makes more sense, but when you're doing, I don't know, Magneto, you expect everyone to show up, because this is, he's a world-ending kind of threat, So I don't know. I think it's hard to justify a solo movie when there's so many people out there who should be involved.
And that's kind of the joke when you got these solo movies. And then it's like, why did the Avengers not turn up? Because in this solo movie, the world was going to end, or in this solo, like, where were they? Where has Captain Marvel been? Some vague answer about... I'm not going to get started on Captain Marvel, but that's definitely... I'm a huge fan of MCU, but in order to be a fan of MCU, you have to really swallow some giant plot holes. That's the price of admission into the awesomeness of the MCU. That's right. I mean, if these people really existed in the same universe, it all falls apart, really. But I also read that, again, read it on Facebook, so take this for what it's worth, but I read that because of COVID, the ending of WandaVision was affected, and that there were changes which or something would be weird. We don't open up a whole conversation about WandaVision.
We can go down that another time.
That's a special edition.
Yeah. Basically, that's a terrible excuse, and there's lots of reasons why that I mean, I'm sure they would love to to get off the hook with that excuse. But anyway,
Yeah.
before we go down that rabbit hole, yeah, development hell is a term that's often used. And it's more common than you might think, right? Or than a general audience viewer might know.
Oh yeah, so many films that don't even see the light of day that millions of dollars have been spent on developing, and then it just doesn't happen. It's just development. It's just this
And then
thing,
they announce it like months in advance, years in
this
advance.
thing that you can't.
and it just doesn't happen.
There's a huge production like about almost 10 years ago in Wellington, and people were working on it. This was their job, and they're building sets and props and everything, and then it just goes away, and it's just gone. It was going to be huge, and yeah, millions of dollars.
You're talking about
gone.
Halo?
Not Halo. I'm talking about End of an Empire.
Okay. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Don't get me started. I think have I told you about that before, Taki?
I think you have briefly, but not in depth. But that's fine.
They could have made so many indie dramas with that money. I'm not saying they shouldn't have tried to make it.
Yeah.
I think they should have made it. But you spent many indie dramas worth to not make a film.
I think that's such a tragedy when that happens. Like in the sense that so much of like that budget and all that money is just gone. Like you said, like there's like 20 indie dramas going into this big blockbuster thing, and it's gone.
You know
Not
what?
even in my bank account. It's just
You know
gone.
what gives me nightmares? What gives me nightmares is the person behind it, the writer or the creator or whatever, who got so close to this incredible vision. So close. Like it was basically starting. And then it just goes away and that's it. Just imagine that. I cannot imagine the stress. Oh.
Yeah. I mean, talk about Eddie Murphy quitting acting. That would probably make me quit working in the industry.
Yeah,
you know?
that would just the disappointment after getting so. It's one thing to be sitting here like, man, I want to make my big epic, but I can't. That's one thing. It's another thing to be building the props for it, and people are employed, and Richard Taylor's all up in this and everything, and then it's gone, and it's just gone. Oh, I can't even imagine. Yeah.
Wow.
On that note,
I was going to say, considering we're all like aspiring directors and make our own stuff, that is a sobering thought. So excuse us, everyone, while we take a moment
to really assess our life choices. Is it worth it? Maybe it's better to not try at all.
But
I haven't even started, and I'm already jaded. Oh my god!
I was going to say, before we start spiraling into depression, I'm going to open this next clue up to either of you.
All right.
So again, first person to jump in with the right answer gets the point.
I do appreciate you having me on. Sorry for getting you all depressed. Okay, let's go.
Oh no,
that's great.
I wrote the question. Which production has been lent a hand by bounty hunters?
By bounty. Oh, is this
that
Guardians of the Galaxy?
With the stage
3?
Mandalorian
tech
technology.
Yes, you are both correct, but Taki, you definitely got in there first. This is the news that the Guardians of the Galaxy 3 will make use of Lucasfilm's stagecraft technology, which was developed for shooting The Mandalorian. So what do you guys know about this technology? I don't know, either of you want to tell us what it is and how it works?
I think I know. I saw this. I don't know if these are connected. Actually, no, Callum. You sent me something. It must have been years ago now, man. You sent me something about this technology. Is it the same thing that you sent me, or is it different? Do you remember the thing you sent me?
So they have got one down in Wellington.
But you sent me
was
was
the one you're talking about, the one that I was using.
No, you sent me something with these people in the States who developed this technology because he wanted to make a low budget sci-fi, and it was where the screen.
No.
Is that different?
Yeah, that's different. So that is essentially the budget version of what Lucasfilm have done.
Right.
So it'd be interesting to see whether that was connected. But yeah, that was a person who come up with a very cheap way of doing projection. And
is it the same concept though?
Well, instead of LEDs, it was with more projectors as opposed to. But yeah, similar sort of thing where it works hand in hand with a separate program, a game program to So it's essentially like a 360 box of LED screens that are playing the digital world. So essentially you've done the VFX work first almost, and then you're just playing that on this screen. So the actors are walking and the camera picks up that environment. There's still actually a bit of post-production, well, quite a lot of post-production to do. But essentially you are replacing the need to be on location or to use grease.
It means that the actors have that visual on set instead of an ugly green screen. I mean, how much of a difference would that make?
Yeah.
Surely.
So how do you feel about that? Do you think that this technology could even replace the need to shoot on location at all?
I think, I mean, when you think about it in the sort of concept of a post-COVID world, I think that's really interesting that there could be a time where we have these, what do you call it, screencast? Stagecraft. Wow, way off, but that's okay, we move. To have that technology and have studios dedicated to that. I mean, imagine we get hit with another pandemic and then it's just like, oh God, we've lost that location. That's all right. We're just shooting in the studio and have that, done up for us. It's like, I think it's great. And I think it's even better for actors who, have been acting in front of green screens. And I just think about, what's his name? Ian McKellen? And his outburst about, acting with green balls and like these, just nothing. And like, I can't, being such a difficult thing for actors to do, because I can imagine that being.
I mean, he cried on set. He cried on the set of The Hobbit.
True.
Because of the green and blue screen, and as I quote, "This is not why I became an actor."
Yes, exactly. It's not why he became an actor, and I think this will definitely help in that regard, or at least be more immersive for actors to actually be there without even being on location. But I think it has a lot of interesting applications for the future, especially when, like I said, with post-COVID, there's like this precedent of the fact that, what if we can't go on location and we need this and we don't want a green screen because if that. So yeah, I think it's good. I think it's interesting way forward, and I'm keen to see how Guardians implements that.
Yeah, I suppose, like you said, Guardians of the Galaxy is something that is more tailored to, because most of the worlds that they create couldn't necessarily be created practically. Obviously, I mean, and Anthony knows this because he feels the same way as me, but we are big proponents or, supporters of practical effects.
Yes.
I feel strongly that practical effects should be used to enhance what's there, not necessarily replace.
Yeah.
What's there. So I would kind of always opt for shooting on location personally.
Yeah,
but
wherever you can, right? Yeah.
I think stagecraft technology, I think there are so many implications, so many doors it opens. I definitely don't think it would eliminate location shooting altogether. I think there are way too many instances where that actually wouldn't work. You can't be in a box for this particular thing for whatever reason. But another thing is, it looks so good. It looks way better than green screen. I mean, I watched The Mandalorian and I was really not invested in it for 1.5 seasons until finally at the end it had some kind of actual story that continued from episode to episode. But I just loved looking at it. It was gorgeous. And I genuinely, either it was all on location on these foreign planets or it was all in a studio, because if there was any combination, I couldn't tell, genuinely. I'm just watching this thing and it's just gorgeous. So to have something that's artificial but that looks so good, that's huge. If green screen, if quote unquote green screen movies could actually look really good now, I mean, that's game changing,
Yeah. Fully agree. It will be interesting to see how that affects the industry going forward, and whether the crew replace a lot of the crew with techies, who IT guys. But yeah, so in stark contrast to this, though, we've also heard about the Matrix 4's methods. So Neil Patrick Harris had this to say about his experience on that production. said the filming conditions didn't feel large because we were filming on the fly using natural light. Sometimes you'd sit around for an hour waiting for the clouds to clear, and then you'd quickly film. You'd film pages at a time in 30 minutes and then be done. You would think that a giant movie would be 100% storyboarded, animatics, and we'd be checking off shots. Wachowski comes with this idea, this set piece. This is the character. This is what's happening. This is the conflict. This is where I need him to be emotionally or psychologically or whatever plot-wise at the end of the sequence. What do you got in your bag of tricks to make it absolutely crazy? So there's quite a stark contrast to how the Guardians of the Galaxy 3 will be filmed. But seeing as we're all directors here, what do you make of that?
Well, as a critically acclaimed award-winning auteur, I must say that
As the genius in me, it really resonates with. Hearing that really piques my interest. I would love to see the Matrix play out in that style, which surely has got to be utterly different from the trilogy. Yeah, I mean, that just sounds so unexpected, and I'm really interested to see how this film feels.
Yeah,
Yeah.
me too. I think it's interesting to hear someone who was essentially of that, high status, working on such a wide-known property, taking those. I don't know how to describe it. Like it feels very, intimate and indie approach as opposed to the entire idea of this massive blockbuster with this massive budget and these thousands of ways you can shoot it, to just go with, you know what, guys, let's just wait for the clouds to part and then we'll get the lighting we want. It's just like it feels so wholesome.
It feels so short and street.
Yeah.
It feels
Well, that's interesting, because I heard that and I thought, man, they must have a massive budget if they're able to pick and choose when they do these things, considering the size of movie that they're making. You know what I mean? It's not an indie film, but they are making it in a kind of more indie style where you are just waiting for the weather or whatever, or kind of doing things on the fly. Either that, or it sounds like a first AD's nightmare. But
or they've kind of redistributed the funds, where if it's a bit more intimate in style, what they might have spent on a more expensive way of shooting it, they use just paying crew to sit around waiting for the clouds. You know what I mean? Like if you take something out of there,
sounds like a great job.
But man, those 30 seconds when you're shooting, the most stressful 30 seconds of your life, and you better hope the battery's charged. So that's the annoying thing. Oh, we're sitting around for 3 hours, cool. But now we have to shoot instantly. Oh, the battery's charged. Got to switch the battery. I mean, that's just that's Taki. Good luck. That's your job now. Godspeed.
Cheers, mate.
Yeah. Well, who knows? Apparently, that's almost exactly what Ralph McQuarrie did on Mission Impossible Fallout, and that was incredible. So, shooting on the fly and kind of almost making up the story as it goes along and allowing the actors to kind of almost make up their own dialogue. So, and that movie was incredible. So, we shall see. And with that, Anthony is on 22 points.
What the heck?
Whereas Taki,
how many points do you award?
is slightly ahead on 25 points.
Hey.
Which means it's time for some bonus points. So these next clues will be quickfire, so they're available to both my guests, and a last chance for Anthony to crawl his way back.
All right.
Right.
So
Right.
here goes.
Click the next.
Okay, I'm ready.
Okay. Which production has no way to keep the paparazzi at home?
Is this the Spider-Man?
Yes. Taki, you are quite right. The MCU Spider-Man 3 has received its official title, No Way Home, and set photos have emerged showing off the new suit, which is not much different from what we saw in Far From Home.
But maybe he gets another makeover mid-movie.
Mid-movie.
I would assume so. But for our next item, which Jedi is set to return in their own TV series?
Oh, Jedi.
Which Jedi is set to return in their own TV series? I mean, Obi-Wan. Obi-Wan, right?
No, it's not
Oh.
Obi-Wan.
But is
He is going to. That is confirmed. I'm talking about one that
a
is
new one.
rumoured.
It's not Ahsoka, is it?
No, that one's confirmed as well.
Oh, it's a new one.
I mean, just think of the first Jedi that comes
Luke
to your head.
Skywalker.
Hey!
Oh.
Quite right.
Nice.
Yes, this is new news that along with the announcement that Disney are planning on dropping 100 new shows each year.
Wait, what did you just say? 100 new
100
shows.
new shows.
Yes.
Wait, did you say each year?
Yes.
Mate.
Yeah, exactly. But along with somewhere within that tsunami of content, there are whisperings of a Luke Skywalker TV series. And the obvious reply to that is you have to use Sebastian Stan and not your horrible deep fake mocap
Hey,
replacement.
deep fake
You have
is
to
better
use-
than the CGI. Have you seen the
Yeah, that's true.
why did they
Yeah,
deep
as in-
fake on these movies?
Is in their version of it. They should have deep faked. Yeah,
Yeah.
you're quite right. Because the mocap replacement was terrible.
It was astonishingly terrible.
But yes, so moving on to our final item this week. And let's see, so that's Taki, 26, and Anthony on 23. So let's make it interesting. This last one is worth 10 points.
Right.
Let's do it. All the marbles, baby.
So, which film is feeling pretty animated about
Raya
last
and the Last
weekend's
Dragon.
success? Oh,
He's done it. He's done it.
he's done it.
We went and saw Raya and the Last
Anthony.
Dragon just last week.
We did. So
Nice.
snuck in there. So yeah, that's right. Raya and the Last Dragon has topped the box office the last 2 weekends, bringing its current total global haul to $35 million. Anthony and I saw it this week, and in brief, the animation is stunning and they've created an interesting world. But unlike their other movies, the script is very much for young kids. The Southeast Asian references are mostly superficial and just a chance for Disney to pat themselves on the back. And the central message is trust everyone, no matter how many times they've abused that trust. So for all of you at home, you can decide whether that's something you want to teach your kids.
Oh, wow. Oh, wow.
And that's it. So, which means the final scores on the door are, and you decide whether this is deserving or not. But Taki made a valiant effort with 26 points.
Let's go.
But it is Anthony who definitely snatched victory today with 33 points.
That worked. Yeah.
Congratulations, Anthony. You've won yourself a true feeling of achievement for at least the next week.
Nice.
So, Anthony and Taki, was this a good week for the movie business? Do you reckon the news deserves the official seal of approval this week?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
The Luke
I'll
Skywalker
agree to
announcement's pretty exciting.
That's pretty cool, actually, yeah.
Yeah, I'd agree. I'm down for that. I like to see it. I get worried about their ability to execute it well, but the idea is good. So, for our audience out there, what was your news highlight of the week? Did we cover it? Did you agree with anything we had to say at all? Let us know in the comments. And if you enjoyed this show, please subscribe to our podcast on YouTube, Apple, Spotify, or whatever platform you're listening on. It would really help us out. Well, thanks for joining me, guys, as well as everyone at home. And we'll see you next time.
Wait, is that even though? Wait,
Is that even? That's
I think that's closer to 80. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5,
1, 2, 3, 4,
79,
5.
78, 77, 76, 75. Oh,
What?
5. No, I think it is an even split. Did I just complicate something that was really simple?
Yeah, what are you...
I'm trying to do the
Man,
maths.
you're t-
29, 28,
It's-
26,
you guessed
25.
80, and you
Yeah.
guessed
No, no,
70,
yeah.
and the answer is 75.
No, you're right. I just, for
So-
some reason, I thought 5 was on the bottom half of 10. And 6 is the beginning of the top
Well-
half. Anyway, we can cut this out, eh? Don't cut that part out.
That's staying in. That's staying in.